It can be said that disability is an open club. Anyone can join at any time, not by choice, but by circumstances. Assuming you happen to join now, how would you want to be treated? I'm sure many of you are thinking, God forbid, God forbid. Yes, indeed, God forbid, because according to the UN 2011 World Report on Disability, in developing countries, about 80% to 90% of persons living with disabilities of working age are unemployed. Whereas in the industrialized countries, the figure is between 50% and 70%. So you see now, if God does not forbid and you join this club, perhaps you will be unemployed and you only add to the number. Yes, everyone is struggling for employment or for a job, but what is the story of the person who has some form of disability? When I was around 4 years old, I suffered from measles, and that resulted in my blindness. And after going to a number of hospitals and prayers, a doctor finally referred us to School for the Blind, Ekropon. And that is where I learned how to read and write. Then I had no prior knowledge of School for the Blind, but what I had in mind was that because I could see a little, I was going to be allowed to get close to the blackboard, or prints will be large enough for me to read. Little did I know that these fingers of mine were going to be my eyes for the rest of my life. You know, every child dreams of what he or she wants to be when he or she grows up. So I'm sure many of you may recall a simple poem that we used to recite. I don't know whether it's a poem or it's a song that we used to recite, that when I grow, I shall be a carpenter, a carpenter, a carpenter, a carpenter, I shall be. I'm sure I've reminded some of you, unless you didn't go to primary school. You see, whilst the non-disabled children are free to say whatever they want to be when they grow up. If you're a visually impaired person, for instance, whilst your lips are saying, when I grow, I shall be a pilot, your mind will be asking you, have you heard a blind man as a pilot before? Why? Do you want to kill yourself and others? So, from the very beginning, the person who is disabled is even limited in his or her dreams as to the kind of job he or she can do, or the kind of career choice. So if you are a hearing impaired person, for instance, you're not dreaming of becoming a broadcaster. If you are visually impaired, perhaps you're not dreaming of becoming a medical doctor, especially in Ghana. Or if you are physically challenged, neither are you dreaming of becoming a driver or something like that. That is why, in spite of my interest in newscasting or journalism, I didn't go to any journalism school after senior secondary school at Okwapmine, but I went straight to the University of Cape Coast to do Bachelor of Education Arts. But what I did was that I never abandoned my dream of becoming a newscaster. When I got to the University of Cape Coast, there were 2 campus stations at a time. And after failing to secure a position at the first one, I got lucky and booked an appointment with the studio manager of the other radio station, which is Radio Valco. And Radio Valco was located on the last floor of a 4-story building. You know, here, most of our buildings do not even have lift. How much more a hall in a university? no lift. But I was at the man's office before he came. And when he saw me at the office, the question he asked me was, "Are you the one looking for me?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "If I knew you were the one, I would have asked you to wait for me at downstairs." My dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, this is a man who thinks that he does not want to bother a blind man by letting him climb a flight of staircase, versus a blind man who is determined to work on a radio station located on the last floor of a 4-story building. And this is the story of the disabled. This is a story many persons with disabilities can identify themselves with, because most of the times, employers conclude on what the disabled person can do far before he or she tells the employer what he can do. So instead of asking you whether you can use the computer, they will tell you that, well, we do not have a special computer for you, so we don't think we'll be able to employ you. Or looking at the structure of our building, we do not think that you'll be able to move around here, or you can't report at the right time, so we are sorry we can't employ you. And this is where I hail my current employer, Mr. Ernest Boateng, because when I approached Global Media Alliance to do my national service, he said, "We as a company give equal opportunities to everyone. So we want you to come and do aptitude test. Can you do it?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "If you are asked to report at 8, will you be able to come?" I said, "Yes, sir." "Well, now, tell us what you can do." And I said, "This is what I can do." Hello, good afternoon, and warmly welcome to Week in Focus. My name is Paul Anomakodie. Coming up in this hour, National Health Insurance capitation reaches 3 more regions in an attempt by the authority to roll it out nationwide. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo makes a comeback to contest NPP's presidential election. In business, domestic airline sector records 14% increase in passenger numbers in 2013. And in international news, pro-Russian troops take over Ukrainian naval headquarters in Crimea.
We tread with excellence. We stand tall.
And now the details of their stories. The University of Ghana on Monday extended the time limit given to commercial drivers who ply the campus from 15 to 20 minutes. However, the new time frame has not allayed the concerns of drivers. ETV's Deborah Smalley-Lomote reports. After a turbulent piloting of the capitation program in the Ashanti region, the National Health Insurance Authority has announced the extension of the project nationwide. But ahead of the implementation, ETV News examines the feasibility of the much criticized exercise, which has been fraught with lots of setbacks. In sports, soccer fans on the streets of Accra have expressed their opinion about the approved $9.8 million budget for the Black Stars ahead of the upcoming World Cup in Brazil. Thank you very much for joining me. My name is Paul Anomakodie. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Well, all right. Thank you very much. But I think that if opportunities are given to others, some could even do better than this. But I think that if unemployment among persons with disabilities will reduce drastically, there are certain fundamental issues that need to be tackled first. First of all, I think there should be massive awareness creation and sensitization of disability issues to correct certain wrong perceptions people have concerning persons with disabilities. In our part of the world, Africa, and for that matter, Ghana, many even see disability as a curse or even the work of the devil. So it was not surprising that apart from the number of hospitals my parents took me, we also attended a number of prayers as well. I remember during one of those prayers, the pastor was saying that when the Holy Spirit comes on you, you are going to fall down. So do not worry about the new clothes that you are wearing. Then, before he could even finish, the crowd moved back and pushed me down. So I tried getting up, and my loving mother, Juliana Akosuyanimo, thinking it was the Holy Spirit which had come on me, gently held me down. But I knew it was someone who had pushed me down. You see, I'm saying this because I think it's about time we knew that disability is not so different from the daily illnesses we acquire, except that this is permanent. There is therefore the need for us to get rid of the numerous weird stories associated with the condition, so that if you have an employer who thinks that meeting a disabled person first thing in the morning is a sign of bad luck, there's no way such an employer will employ a person with disability. Also, I think that parents should invest in the education, parents of disabled children should invest in the education and training of their disabled children, because once again, in our part of the world, many disabled parents are not well-to-do, and that is why even many are disabled in any way, because sometimes you require just a little to take care of the child, but because of where the person was born and lack of certain facility, the person lives with a disability. But even at a very difficult time, when a doctor has referred me and my brother, Peter Anomakodie, who is also visually impaired, to school for the blind, that was when my father, Anthony Anomakodie, the poor security man at the time, made a promise he and my mother kept faithfully. He said, do not worry, because even if it's left with only one shirt of mine, I'm going to sell it for you to go to school. So if parents of disabled children will be so passionate of giving their disabled children the best education and the necessary training required for the job market, I do not think that unemployment will be as high as it is now among persons with disabilities. Another thing that is dear to my heart is the availability of assistive devices. In the developed countries, disabled persons are able to live independent lives and also work efficiently due to technology. So why can't businessmen and women in Africa, and in Ghana in particular, go into the manufacturing and production of assistive devices, or even the development of disabled-friendly softwares to assist persons with disabilities? If they do, they will not only help persons with disabilities live independent lives and work efficiently, they would also be making money for themselves and for this nation. Initially, when my scripts are ready for me to go on air, somebody had to sit with me and read everything for me to braille again before I'm able to go and read. But the executive chairman of Global Media Alliance, Mr. Edward Boateng, thanks to him, he had to search and got me a machine that now when my scripts are ready, they only put it on a flash drive and I'm able to go and read. And when it is taken from the machine, anybody else like you who can also see can also read it. But when I slot it in the machine, it just comes in braille like that. So even if I have few minutes to go on air and it's given me, I'll be able to go and present. So if assistive devices are available and cheaper to get, I'm sure that it will enhance the efficiency of persons with disabilities. I'm therefore asking African businessmen and women, and those in Ghana in particular, to develop disabled-friendly softwares and also produce assistive devices to help persons with disabilities live independent lives and work efficiently. At this point, I would like to encourage my colleague persons with disabilities to feel free to dream. Whatever dreams or aspirations you have, just believe that you will be able to accomplish them. I believe that on this earth, there's no one, absolutely no one who is useless. Therefore, turn your loss of vision, limbs, or lack of hearing into advantages or instead of disadvantages. And now to employers, I say that there are so many unique talents that persons with disabilities have. If employers will recognize this and employ persons with disabilities, they would unearth talents they never dreamt of. Persons with disabilities want to do something for themselves, their communities, and their nation. All they need is the chance for them to be able to do so. So employ them. And don't just employ them, give them specific tasks and see whether they will not accomplish them. There is this Chinese proverb that I'm sure many of you may be familiar with that says, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. So please, at least remember this, that anytime any person with disability approaches you for a job, just remember that he or she wants you to teach him or her to fish and not to give him or her fish. Would you please remember? Yes. Okay, thank you very much.